Imagine this, you're the son of the second most famous basketball player in history, carrying his last name tattooed on your back like a burden, filmed since you were in diapers, and the day you debut in the NBA, everyone wants to see you fail. We're not talking about just another player, we're talking about Bronny James, the guy half the world swore was a marketing invention, a LeBron move just to play with his son. Before retiring, everyone wanted his downfall, and for months it looked like they were right. A disaster in college, a mess in the summer league, sad numbers in preseason. He's not even ready for the G League, they said. The meme was bigger than his dad's ego, but what no one saw coming was this. The kid weathered the storm and started killing it. Silently, no media, no spotlight. In empty gyms and G League streams, no one watches. And the craziest part is that he did it alone, without his dad by his side, with no handouts. Is Bronny James a Nike-hyped fraud, or are we witnessing the biggest plot twist in modern basketball? Buckle up, you crazy basketball nerd, because what you're about to see is juicy data. From the very first second, Bronny James wasn't just playing against his rivals, he was playing against the biggest shadow in the world of sports, his own father's. Any other kid with his level of high school play would have just been a promising name, one more on the list, but Bronny was a James, and that, at the very least, multiplied expectations by 1,000. You're either the heir to the throne or a fraud. There was no in-between. Sierra Canyon, McDonald's All-American, Nike at his feet, and scouts drooling over every three-pointer he made. But when you took off the marketing glasses, the reality was harsher. Bronny was ranked way too high for his actual performance. Solid player, yes. Well-built physique, also yes. But future NBA star, that was generous. Many knew that if his last name weren't James, he wouldn't be anywhere near those rankings. And that's where the problem began, because having privileges is one thing, but having the public realize you're using them, that's another. Every time Bronny got picked for a big event, the murmurs grew louder. What did he do to be there? Many felt he was stealing spots from more talented players with less famous last names. And for basketball fans who treat meritocracy like a religion, that was a slap in the face. The fuse was lit, and no one was going to put it out easily. When Bronny finally made it to the NBA, he didn't do it as an underdog who earned his spot by sweating blood. He did it as the son of the king, with a guaranteed 4-year contract, while other rookies were risking their necks for a 10-day deal. And that hit like a bomb. His performance in college had been weak, 4.8 points per game, 36% from the field, 27% from three. None of that justifies getting drafted. But still, the Lakers picked him at 55. And on top of that, they signed him like he was a gem. People felt scammed. Basketball, that sport where the stats speak, seemed to be getting manipulated by a marketing story. And as if that weren't enough, the kid didn't deliver. The Summer League was a cold shower. He scored barely 7 points across all games with a sad 13% from three. The murmurs turned into shouts. He's a disaster. They only put him in because he's LeBron's son. There are hundreds of better players. And when preseason came, instead of calming the waters, it made them worse. Scoreless games, ghost minutes, and a total lack of impact. Every time he stepped on the court, he seemed to confirm what everyone was saying about him. He wasn't ready, and the worst part is, many believed he never would be. Instead of protecting him, the Lakers exposed him. They threw him into the fire like he was going to shine by magic, and when it didn't work, they kept insisting. Bronny debuted in the NBA on the same team as his father. Father and son together on the same court. The historic moment was set. The photo could have been legendary, but the scene felt so artificial, it ended up generating more rejection than emotion. Then came the humiliation tour. Random minutes against top rivals with no context, no plan, and no confidence. Against the Bucks, against the Warriors, against the Suns. Bronny came in, missed, and came out. Like a background actor who doesn't know whether to perform or stand still. And every miss was a viral tweet. Every brick, a new excuse to trash him. The Lakers, instead of lowering the pressure and letting him develop calmly, turned him into content. They paraded him around the NBA like he was LeBron's emotional accessory, and when that didn't work, they sent him to the G League, but even there, they didn't leave him alone. Bronny only played home games. The explanation, no one gave one. But the most repeated theory was that he was there to sell tickets and jerseys, not to compete. The message was clear. He wasn't a player, he was a product, and that hurt more than any stat. So imagine if Bronny was already bad with all this pressure, it was only natural his performance got even worse. When they sent him to the G League, many saw it as the end. They buried him, they said, because if he had already failed in college, in the Summer League, and in NBA preseason, what could he possibly do in a league where players kill themselves for a shot? And at first, it looked like they were right. In his debut with the South Bay Lakers, Bronny was exactly what everyone expected. 2 for 10 from the field, 0 for 5 in threes, 5 turnovers. Not even against players who weren't on the NBA radar could he stand out. In the second game, same story, 4 points, 0 threes again, a blurry photocopy of his worst version. To make things worse, the stat that destroyed him. The team announced Bronny would only play home games. Why? Wasn't he traveling with his teammates? Was he getting VIP treatment? Was he afraid of flying? No one explained anything, but the damage was done. The narrative was brutal. Bronny James wasn't a professional player, he was a halftime attraction with a fancy last name. While the rest of the team endured endless trips, he stayed at home. And there, at that low point where everything seemed lost, something broke, or better yet, something lit up. Against the San Diego Clippers, Bronny dropped 16 points. Nothing crazy, but for the first time, he looked comfortable. He moved with rhythm, he didn't hesitate, he shot and scored, and it wasn't a coincidence. That game was on the road, he played outside, he stepped out of his bubble, it was off script, and that small act of rebellion was the beginning of something much bigger. On December 12th, against the G League Suns, the unthinkable happened. Bronny exploded, 30 points, 56% shooting, a display of confidence that hadn't been seen even in his best high school days. He drove, he shot, he defended, he passed, everything. That night he played like a professional, and for the first time, he didn't seem like someone's son. He seemed like someone, the guy who had been a walking meme turned into a serious threat, a guy with hunger, and most importantly, he no longer looked scared. That game against the Suns wasn't just a good night, it was a war cry. Bronny came out on fire, hitting 2 threes in a row like saying, "You wanted to see if I'm worth it? Well, watch this." He looked different, with a new energy like something had been unlocked, and it wasn't just shooting, it was attitude, confidence, body language. He looked comfortable, fluid, even a bit cocky. The shy Bronny had stayed home. The new one came out ready to kill. He finished with 30 points, and it wasn't one of those inflated garbage time 30s. These were useful, important points scored at key moments in the game. He held his own one-on-one, broke through defenses, found clean shots. He even showed up in the clutch, and the juiciest part, he was efficient, shooting over 50%. Was it a fluke? Not at all. Next game against the same team, he showed up again, 16 points. Not as brilliant, but consistent, and that was the rarest thing to see in him until then, consistency. Or actually, he had been consistently mediocre. So little by little, Bronny started to break out of the failed experiment mold and fit into the developing player one. No one wanted to admit it yet, but the highlights were already circulating everywhere, and the ones who used to mock him started watching with a different face. The G League has a bad reputation, but it's no picnic. It's full of hungry, tough, physical players who would kill for a spot in the NBA, even veterans who fell out of the league and are trying to get back, and there, Bronny started to stand out, not just in scoring, but in everything: rebounds, steals, assists, defense. He became a complete player, one of those guys who, if you didn't know who he was, you'd be asking, why isn't this guy in the NBA? During the tip-off tournament, his averages were clear: 13.4 points, 3.4 assists, nearly a steal, and a block per game. His three-point shooting was still weak, but the volume and the confidence were there, and most importantly, he was learning how to read the game. He started showing court vision, smart passes, correct decisions in tough moments. In a key game against Greensboro, he dropped 16 points, 5 assists, 3 steals, and 4 rebounds. The Bronny, who couldn't lift his head from the pressure, was now running games as a starting point guard. Then came a game that shut a lot of people up. 7 assists, 5 rebounds, 6 of 7 shooting, a cerebral Bronny, a floor general, like he had channeled his dad but in point guard form. What seemed impossible just months before was now visible. The kid was growing. But just when it seemed like Bronny was finding his way, the Lakers did it again. Instead of allowing him to develop in peace, they brought him back to the main team. Reason? None logical. Result? A disaster waiting to happen. They sent him to play against the defending champions, the Philadelphia 76ers, and the game was a nightmare. 15 minutes on the court, 0 for 5 in shooting, 0 for 3 in three-pointers, 3 turnovers, and the cruelest part, they hunted him down. Tyrese Maxey used him as a training cone. He targeted him on every possession, broke him, humiliated him. Bronny was an easy target, and everyone saw it. Nationally, live, in front of the world. JJ Redick, the coach, even threw him under the bus in the post-game conference. Instead of supporting him, he threw him under the bus. He didn't play well, but he was doing fine in the G. A textbook phrase to wash his hands, and as if that free exposure wasn't enough, they kept throwing him into meaningless NBA games, even in one where they were winning by 40 points. What were they looking for? For him to learn to suffer? It was obvious every minute in the NBA without context set him back. They were throwing him into the lion's den without a shield or a spear. If they didn't stop it, they would ruin him. And when it seemed like there couldn't be more mistakes, something unexpected happened. The Lakers brought him back up, but this time, they did it right. It was during Luka Doncic's debut wearing a Lakers jersey after the bombshell trade for Anthony Davis. All eyes were on Luka, all the headlines were about the new superstar, no one was talking about Bronny, and that, paradoxically, was the best thing that could have happened to him. That day, Bronny stepped on the court with no pressure, nobody expected anything, but he did everything. In just 7 minutes, he scored 9 points, shot 3 of 4 from the field and 2 of 3 from 3, even dished out an assist. He played like he wasn't carrying any weight, like finally he was enjoying himself. It wasn't a miracle. It was the result of the silent growth he'd been working on below the surface, away from the spotlight. And the smartest part, after that game, the Lakers didn't expose him again. Instead of getting swept up in the hype, they sent him back to the G League. For the first time, they respected his process. They let him grow where he felt strong. Bronny had left the NBA as a humiliated player and came back as a capable professional. Not a phenomenon, not an heir, a player. And for him, that was way more important. What Bronny showed after returning to the G League was straight up solid. 24 points on 63% shooting from the field, 4 for 6 from 3, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, a full-on show. That night marked his best FIC of the season, the index that measures a player's overall impact. He wasn't LeBron's kid anymore. He was the guy who lit up Salt Lake City, a player who understood the game, read the floor, found teammates, and shot with confidence. And it wasn't a one-hit wonder. Next game, he did it again. 16 points, 6 rebounds, 8 assists, more of a passer, more complete, more of a leader. He took control of the game's pace, distributed the ball, directed the offense. He acted like a real starting point guard. Bronny from 6 months ago couldn't go 5 minutes without screwing up. This new Bronny was running entire games, and the season stats backed it all up. 21.9 points per game, 5.4 rebounds, 5.1 assists, 2 steals, 44% from the field, 39% from 3. All this in a league where guys are clawing for a single shot at the NBA. In less than a year, Bronny went from the worst pick in the draft to a G League top 10. And not because of his name, because of his performance. This doesn't erase his past, but it completely rewrites his present. The guy who used to be Twitter's favorite punchline is now a player respected by his teammates, his coach, and even the basketball media. Now comes the hardest part. What do we do with Bronny? Yeah, the kid improved, yeah, he's playing well, but is he NBA ready? That's a whole different story, and this is where the Lakers need to keep a cool head, because the temptation is there, the fairy tale. Father and son, the legacy, the movie script, but if they rush him again, they could destroy everything he's been building, patiently, quietly, and with real effort. Right now, the smartest move would be to let him finish the season with the South Bay Lakers, play the G League playoffs, keep sharpening his weaknesses, build confidence, then, if everything keeps trending up, bring him into Summer League with a bigger role. No more jumping into the deep end, no more, let's see if he can handle it. He's already shown he can grow. Now they need to let him do it without throwing him back into the meat grinder. The craziest part? The same system that tried to bury him now holds the key to turning him into a real NBA player. Bronny's not just a jersey that sells anymore. Not just the kid with the famous name. He's an athlete who survived the spotlight, the hate, the media circus, and just kept working in silence. But what happens next? That's not up to him anymore. Bronny James is not the savior of basketball. He is not the next LeBron, and for now, he is not a star either. But what he is a kid who has faced more hate than any other rookie in years. And instead of breaking down, he stood his ground. He went from being a symbol of nepotism to becoming a player who is earning respect through hard work. And that, in this industry that elevates and diminishes you according to the algorithm, is already an achievement. Not for what he promises, for what he has already done, because instead of responding with interviews, he did it with points. Instead of crying about the haters, he left them speechless. Now the question is different. Are we ready to acknowledge that we were wrong, or are we going to keep waiting for him to fail so we can say, I told you so? Because if this story made anything clear, it is that when everyone thought he was done, Bronny shut us up in style. But the journey is just beginning. Will it be the start of a groundbreaking career, or are we facing a fleeting illusion that the system inflated to sell jerseys? Drop your thoughts in the comments section. This was Hoop Secrets, and I'll see you next time.